When you're learning about probability, it's really easy just to think about a simple coin toss. And when you toss a coin, there are only two possible things that can happen. You could get heads or you could get tails. Those are the only two possibilities or probabilities. When you express a probability, you express it as a fraction where the top number is the number of times that the desired outcome could come up, and the bottom number is the total number of possible outcomes. So, for example, if I said, what is the probability of tossing a coin and getting heads? Well, there is only one possible way that you could get heads. So the number of possible favorable outcomes is 1. But there are two possible outcomes. There's heads and there's tails. So the probability is 1 out of 2. So 1 is the outcome that you're looking for, the heads. 2 is the total number of possible outcomes. And there are two possible outcomes, heads and tails. So the probability of getting heads is 1 out of 2, which could also be expressed as a percent or as a decimal. Okay, so probability can always be expressed as a fraction, a percent, or a decimal. Same thing if I take a die, one dice, a die. What is the probability of tossing a 5? Well, first of all, we have to find all the possible outcomes. So that's the first thing you need to do every time. So all the possible outcomes are listed here. And there are 6 possible outcomes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's going to be the bottom number of our fraction, 6. So whatever we find out for the favorable outcomes, it's going to be a number over 6. So what's the probability of getting 5? Well, how many different ways can you get 5, or just roll off a 5? There's only one way. So the probability of rolling a 5 is 1 out of 6. What is the probability of rolling an even number in this case? The probability of rolling an even number. Well, there are still 6 possible outcomes, 6 total possible outcomes. And how many even numbers are there? 1, 2, 3. So you could roll a 2, 4, or 6. So there are 3 possible favorable outcomes, the ones we're looking for. So the probability of rolling an even number is 3 out of 6, which also could be expressed as 1/2 or 50%. We can also take a look at a spinner like you might see in a board game. When we're talking about probability, we're talking about the same chance of something happening. When you flip a coin, there's the same chance of it getting heads or tails. When you toss a dice, there's the same chance of getting a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, because all of the sides are the same size, so they could all roll to the same way. In this spinner, you'll see that there are 2 sections that are red, 2 that are blue, 1 pink, 1 orange, and 2 green. So you have to take into consideration all the sizes, and that each size has to be identical. So the chance of spinning a red is, you can see that there are a total of 8 sections to this spinner, and the chance of rolling a red is 2 out of 8, because the red is twice as big as each of the other sections. Okay? The pink, though, the chance of rolling a pink is just 1 out of 8. Now, fractions are always reduced to their simplest form, even when you're dealing with probabilities. So this first fraction, of course, would be reduced to 1 out of 4. So the probability of spinning a red is 1 out of 4. Of spinning a pink is 1 out of 8. So when you have a probability, you have to take a look at the total number of possible outcomes. So if I spun this spinner, it might land on red, it might land on red, it might land on green and green, and each of those possible outcomes has to have an equal chance of occurring.